Good morning. It's 8 o'clock on Saturday. Wouldn't you know it? I'm just crazy enough to be live right now. So, yeah, this is 2 days in a row. I was up at like 4 o'clock in the morning. And so I am going to seize the opportunity to get some live streaming out of the way. I may do something this weekend for those of you who may be more comfortable with an evening stream, but hey, we're here and this is what we're doing right now. Hopefully, in the process, I can get some of my other projects continued during the weekend, and so doesn't look like anybody's here right now, but that's okay. I got a couple graphics I'm going to put up and hopefully spark a discussion once people do join. So, the first one is the problem of e-waste, right? And with the end of security updates and official support from Microsoft in October of this year for Windows 10, there is a potential for a huge influx of e-waste. And what can we do about it? Right? Well, I said this before, and I'll continue to say it. I will die on this hill if I have to. There is a lot of life left in these machines that were originally sold with Windows 10, Windows 8, Windows 7. XP machines are getting a little long in the tooth at this point. Even some of the later Windows Vista machines could still be usable today, although they may not be in the neighborhood of the efficiency you want, meaning that they will cost you more in electricity to run them than picking up a mini PC off Amazon or your vendor of choice, right? So when I talk about reusing these machines, I'm specifically looking at moving from some version of Windows, let's just say 8 to 10, moving from some version of Windows to Linux. Now, there are many ways you can accomplish this. And not all of them mean using it as your primary computer. So consider for a moment you buy a new Windows 11 PC. Wouldn't be my choice, but hear me out. You buy a new Windows 11 PC. So, what's the first thing you need to do after you get the updates done and you've established that the machine is, in fact, in full working order and it meets your needs? Well, the logical place to start is to transfer your files from your Windows 10 machine over to the new machine. There are a number of ways you can do this, right? So I'm very much a proponent of, network attached storage, not only for a level of backup, but if you have multiple machines, you can share files and you don't have to keep copying them back and forth between different machines or put them on thumb drives or external hard drives, etc. So, by whatever means necessary, you get your files copied over to the new machine. You get your software installed, you get testing done, you verify things are working, you verify you can open your files, and then what do you do with your old machine? Well, one of the reasons that I push the idea of using Linux so much is that it's free, uses fewer resources than Windows, and it can run on older machines than Windows because of the arbitrary stipulations Microsoft has put on Windows 11 machines to have the TPM 2.0 chip and be a certain level of AMD or Intel chips to run. So you've got a lot of options out there. You could turn that Windows machine into a network attached storage with Open Media Vault, with TrueNAS, with Unraid, and there's probably a handful of others out there. You could turn it into a personal server with Casa OS or Umbrel, which is similar. You could turn it into a virtualization server with Proxmox or XCPNG. The sky's really the limit in parallel with the specifications of your computer. If you're going to do a home server or a virtualization machine, you may want to put extra memory and extra storage in that computer. But at the same time, if you're new to those technologies, then any machine is a starting point that you can build on and learn on. And then you can decide if that's the right machine for you to continue what you want to do, or if you're better off moving to another machine. And there are many, many options out there these days. And again, once we get to and past October, there are going to be many more options available at bargain basement prices. And hey, no tariffs on what's already in the country. So I'm going to pause to take a look at chat messages, and then we'll move on to our demo of the day. So we have YouTube Music Portal. All my machines still rock, and I don't have anything recent. I don't even have anything with a native NVMe slot. That's very fair. And if those are desktop machines, one cool thing you can do is grab an NVMe to PCI Express adapter. They're very inexpensive on Amazon and Newegg and other places, and you can add storage that way. You may or may not be able to boot from it, but you can add storage that way. Chrome OS Flex, yep, that's I've never actually used it. I'm not a big fan of Chrome OS in general, but for lower spec machines, I could see where that would be a great choice. Prime OS if you want an Android machine. Sure. There are definitely advantages to having an Android machine as well. All right, so I'm going to switch off the comments for the time being, and I'm going to come over here. Good morning, Richard. All right, so what we've got here is this is a fresh install. I did it this morning before the stream. This is a fresh install of Casa OS. So, what is Casa OS? Is it really an OS? Well, no, it's not really an OS. Casa OS is a piece of software that you install on top of another OS, such as Debian or Ubuntu. Generally, I think most people are installing it on Ubuntu server. And what it gives you is a graphical front end, an easy to use graphical front end for installing and managing Docker applications. You can also use it for some file storage as a very, very, very basic network attached storage. I don't necessarily recommend this solution for that purpose. However, if you are just learning, then knock yourself out. So this, when you get the Casa OS software layer installed, this is the first screen you see. We'll say go. It's going to ask you for a username and password. I'm going to create this and show news feed from Casa OS blog. Yes, we're going to accept that. And this is your basic home screen, right? You have system status for CPU and RAM over here. You've got some featured applications up here on top. You've got the App Store. You've got a link to the Files application. And you can do widget settings so you can turn on and off different widgets, right? Up here at the top, you've got your account. You've got some settings. We're at the current version. You can change the wallpaper. You can change the web UI port and the default search engine. And you can toggle the search bar on and off, right? Okay, so pretty basic. But what makes Casa OS special? That would be the App Store. There are many applications here that are very simple to install. It abstracts the really tech stuff from you, which some people find limiting. Again, my reason for showing this is it's a starting point. If you're learning, if you're repurposing a machine, this is a starting point. So we've got different things up here. And recently, I think in the last 4 to 6 months, Casa OS added by default a third-party app store called Big Bear Casa OS. And it's just another repository where apps are set up, ready to go, and just need to be installed, right? So, one of the things that people like to install is some sort of monitoring application. If you've got multiple devices on your network, you may want a monitoring application. So I've used Uptime Kuma for several years now, but why don't we take a look for demo purposes at Tianji? We'll just say install. And again, no command line stuff. Once you've got Casa OS installed, it's all done in a web browser, which is great. Do I still find some satisfaction by doing things from the command line? Sure, but I'm old school. I've probably got a few years on a lot of my audience, and that's all right. And I'll see how long this takes to finish, and I'll drink some coffee. I'm channeling my inner network Chuck, right? um so anyways, Tianji allegedly is an application that's similar in some ways to Uptime Kuma. And let's check it out. Click open. It opens in a new window. Probably going to have to create a username and password. And I wonder what let's see. Tianji default login admin. Well, I don't like that, but sure enough, it does let you in with that. Let's see. So the first thing I want to do is change my password. Current workspace ID, change password. Okay, now I'm no longer using the default password. That makes me feel better. All right, so what do we have here? Websites, applications, monitor, servers, telemetry, pages, survey, feed, AI gateway. So let's say we want to do my personal blog. Create. Invalid IP. You got to do websites by IP address. Let's do that. Okay, so this is my work website. Let's see, details. So it hasn't checked it yet, apparently. So that's fine. We'll give it a few minutes. But you can do things like adding a monitor. We'll do, sure, we'll call this PVE01, and we'll do 172.16.74.227. Notifications, new, what do we have here? Apprise or Apprise, I'm not sure which, Telegram, that, webhooks, Teams. No Slack, no, yeah. We'll skip that for right now. Monitor, so it didn't save that. Okay, that's fine. 72.16.74.227. Create. And look at that. We got a status. It's up. Website. View details. That's not really doing much there yet, which is fine. Oh, that's for tracking code. Sure. We're not going to do that. So let's, can we delete? Monitor. That's good. Servers. So anyway, you get the idea. This is my first time with Tianji, and so seems easy enough. It's a little more complex than Uptime Kuma. It does have more features than Uptime Kuma. So can we edit this or anything? View details. I would have thought there would be a way to delete it. Anyway, I'll figure that out later. I have not viewed any documentation other than looking at this for the default login. I wish they would force you to change it or set it when you install it, but that's all right. We'll work with it. So anyway, we've got an application installed. It's on our home panel or homepage. And it's one of those lather, rinse, repeat situations. You can go back to the app store, you can find another application and repeat the process, right? Big Bear Casa OS user management. So read this before installing. So by default, in Casa OS, you only get a single user. So this obviously needs to be updated, and so we could probably say that it's been after November 2024 that Casa OS started including Big Bear Casa OS. You no longer have to install this as a separate step, right? So yeah. So we could read through this. We can, figure out what we want to do. I'm going to veto installing this at the moment. I'm not going to keep this instance of Casa OS running after the stream, so we will just look for a few other things. All right. Another popular item for people to install is Image. So Image is an alternative to Google Photos, right? So you've got a standard install of Image. You've got uh, Image all in one on Alpine. Um, and they don't give you much of a description there. We'll look at this description, and that's the same. And then you've got the Image without machine learning. So if you're dead set against using um, AI with your pictures, even on your own server, you can install it without the machine learning component. So let's just do the standard install and see what happens, right? I don't believe this one is one where you need to do a custom install to um, specify username and password, but I could be wrong on that. It's been a minute since I've installed Image, and I know they recently made some changes, so I'm not banking on my memory of the install process being accurate. So, anyways, we are about 30 minutes in, and we've got 2 people watching. I guess we're all the crazy ones for being up before 8 o'clock on a Saturday morning. For everybody else, hello in the playback. So hopefully this will finish up relatively quick. So I'm imagining when it's restarting the installing progress bar that it's installing a separate component or Docker container to make the whole thing run as a system. We'll hope for the best that this finishes and doesn't completely max out the CPU requirements. All right, so I've got 27% of RAM in use and 1% of CPU. I'll take it. So Image, get started. Um, okay. Yeah, map is going to rely on external tile services and it'll check for new versions. Storage template. When enabled, this feature will auto-organize files. Sure. Why not? Date and time. Fine. Like I said, this is a demo. Okay, so what do we have on here? We've got photos. We've got Explore, Map, which will tell you where those photos were taken. Sharing, which you can create an album. You can share links. This is more useful if you're hosting this on the internet and actually making it publicly available, or you're using whatever functionality you want to use to make it available on your home server. That subject is beyond the scope of this video, this live stream. I've got other videos covering Tailscale and NetBird and different things of that nature that allow you to do that without having to port forward or have a reverse proxy necessarily. We've got utilities, archive, locked folders, trash, and it shows you storage space. And I haven't given this virtual server that much space. 50 gigs is the total, 14.1 is in use. Again, this is the storage is going to be shared in a Casa OS environment. So you want to think about what you might want to be running, whether you want to upgrade the storage in a given machine in order to make this work. If you want to upgrade the RAM in a machine to make this work better for you. So anyways, what can we do here? So let me open up my Finder because I'm on a Mac. We'll come back here to photos. And I'm going to see about finding some photos that I don't mind having people see publicly. So bear with me just a moment. So we can do that one. We can do those. These are all going to be very similar photos. I'm even wearing the same sweatshirt in all of them. Let's see if I can find something else. Some of these I don't like. That one I can throw on here. Sure. So that one we can throw on. All right. So anyways, these are all photos that I took for thumbnails. So obviously they're this year and last year, going back just over a year. Imagine that. You know, we can look on the map. It's not going to show anything yet because we haven't really modified any of these. So, so we can put my name on it. So it's going to recognize my face. And so it's not going to have a hard time recognizing my face in any of those. And again, you know, if you want to create an album, we're just going to say demo. We're going to say select photos. And you have to select them with the check mark. So by clicking on them, and we'll say done. So now we've got an album called Demo, And it tells you April 2024 to February 2025. There's 8 photos in that, right? So what else can we do with this? Well, there is the option to share. Looks like you have shared this album with all users, or you don't have any user to share with. Right. So I don't have any other users on the image instance. So we could add a user. I mean, you know, it's not difficult to figure out if you have used Google Photos before, right? So you can set quota sizes for how much disk space they can use, and obviously, email, password, confirm password, and require user to change password on first login, right? So you're setting this up for them, and they'll be able to do things other than administer the system. So if I do and we create that user. So now if I log in, say sign out, and it's going to force me to change the password. And then once we've changed the password, we can get in again, right? So now I can upload photos, other photos. We'll go back further. Let me see what I want to actually put on here. So we'll go back into 2023 and see if I've got a picture of myself somewhere. I'm sure I've got some pictures somewhere. These are all screenshots. There we go. Okay, so now we can refresh the screen. And since we don't have a dialog open, we can go in here and we can do various things with it, right? So we can share it. We can unselect all, right? We can add to. We can favorite. We can change the description. Confirm that. We can add to an album, add to shared album, set as profile picture, view in timeline, refresh faces, refresh metadata, and thumbnails. So again, this is probably not going to give us a lot of information on the map. It might. I don't think it will, though. So, yeah, I'm not seeing anything there. But, so again, we can share it, create link to share, add a description, a password. We can require the password, allow public user to download, allow public user to upload, and expire after. So that's kind of neat the way they did that. And location. There we go. Confirm. So now we know where the location is. And if we go to map, we can zoom in on this. Eventually, it will show an approximate location. So my location here in Diamondale is sort of at the southwest or southwest corner of Lansing. And so yeah, that's I guess accurate. We can go back in as the other user. And we can see, again, you can add a description and add location to all these. You can also trash it, add to album. You've got the same options here. You know, it's all good. So that's that. All right. So let's throw up this comment overlay again. What are your thoughts on Image, on Tianji, on Casa OS? Is this something you might use? Do you think it's worth experimenting with? If you may not want to put any sensitive data on it yet. You may not trust it yet. But you know, what do you think about the overall system? I'd love to hear some feedback from people that might be hanging around. And if you're just joining us, we've been looking at Casa OS. We've been looking at Image and Tianji, which are a couple of applications we've installed on top of Casa OS. So one thing I did want to show here, if we go into the Files application, what you have is the ability, you've got some standard folders like you might have on a desktop machine here. Media, which would be like pictures and movies and whatnot. Gallery, downloads, and documents. What makes this cool is that you can go into app data as well. And so here's image. And you've got a folder called upload. And so you can drill into this. Here's going to be my admin user, 2024. And there's the pictures, 2025. And it's got pictures for the days that the photos were taken. So you can easily, if you were to decide not to continue using image, for example, you can come in here, you can grab the photos that you've dropped into image. They're organized by year, and you can take them and you can copy them somewhere else. You can download them, you can whatever you want to do. You might have to share the folder first, but it can be done, right? Likewise for the second user. It doesn't actually show the username, but it shows the ID. And you can come in here and you can see what was uploaded. And likewise, you can export stuff out of here, either manually or with the facilities that are built into image. So under utilities currently, you have review duplicates, and it says no duplicates were found. That's great, right? If we come into administration, what options do we have? Well, we've got settings for authentication, image settings, job settings, external libraries, map and GPS, server settings. You can do storage templates. You can have photos stored on other servers, for example, a NAS, and just have image be a front end. You can check or set or disable the version check, and you can do video transcoding even. So very flexible piece of software. You do have export as JSON or import as JSON. So if you're migrating from another image instance, you can back up and restore things that way. Now, external libraries. I haven't played with this. No, this cannot be changed later. So, we've got options here. Library owner, I'm going to set as admin. We're just playing, right? Create a library, new external library, specify a folder to import. And so this is where things get interesting. I don't have anything set up to import at the moment, so we're just going to cancel that and we'll delete it. But there are options there. Now, if you wanted to be able to back up what's on here. So we come back to Casa OS itself. There aren't a lot of options built in here to do this for you. Now, if you are so inclined, and I'm not going to do it that way. I need to do it this way because this reused an IP address that I don't want to give up yet. So if we come over here, this is our Casa OS demo. And I'm sorry for it being so small. Okay. If we run htop, you may not be able to read it, but it does show image running. And if we do sudo docker ps, it should show us the Docker status, right? So let's jump over here just for a moment. If we come to files again, this shows root and then data. So let's jump over here and see if we can do this. So it's not in the root home folder, but we can't do it that way. So it's probably in OPT and container D. So that is not going to be our data. So I'd have to find out where the actual data is. But what is my point in all this? Right? My point is, excuse me, coffee is having an effect this morning. The point is, since this Casa OS is essentially just a front end for Docker, it's a pretty front end for Docker, essentially. So we can drill down into the into the structure of the operating system, find out where our data is stored, and move it forward, right? So I'm just trying to figure out where it may have put that. Let's say Casa OS data folder location. We should be able to find, okay, storage location, Casa OS. Do. This is what we want to see, maybe. Mm. All right. So apparently, all right. So that's easy enough. Obviously, this is going to be hard for you to read, but it's actually mounted as it says over here. Root data is actually slash for root data in all caps. So knowing this, that's not what I wanted. Tree dash L1. I want to know tree dash D. There we go. Or not. That's still. That's what I want. Okay. So data, app data. Then we've got Big Bear image, upload, and then you're drilling down into admin, and then 2024 and subfolders, and 2025 and subfolders, and then here's the second user that was created by ID and 2023 and the subfolder, right? So knowing this piece of information, we can use any backup software such as rsync, rclone, what have you, to back up these folders or sync them somewhere else, whether on our network or perhaps you've got a cloud storage that you trust. I would suggest encrypting it if you're going to cloud storage, but to each his or her own. But you've got options. So yes, you would have to set this up on the underlying OS. Once you set a cron job up to back up your folders, you can, have some peace of mind that if something happens to your Casa OS server, that your data is safe, right? You can have this backed up on a regular basis, right? So yeah, just one example here today of how you can reuse an older machine um, for a new purpose, right? Um, keep it from going to the e-waste landfill. Because that's the last thing we need with all the other issues that are happening right now. So one thing that I've been contemplating a little bit lately is writing up documentation so that I could, for instance, if I acquire these used Windows 10 machines, the discarded Windows 10 machines on the cheap, which I'm sure there will be a bunch of them on the cheap coming available. Um, I'd like to I'd like to be able to offer them to resell them to even give them away to people depending on what my cost was for them. Uh, and give them enough instructions that, hey, here's, you plug it in, turn it on, here's the software you use to find it on your network. And yes, I would give examples for Mac OS, Windows, Linux, Android. Sorry, iOS users, you're kind of on your own. I don't have an iOS device. But basically, I would give people options to find the Casa OS machine on their network. And then be able to get to the web interface, right? So I've got some, like, what are these? These are those Lenovo's. I think that's a Lenovo, might be an HP Pro Desk Mini. But I've got some machines that are a little older, but they're new enough that they've got an NVMe drive, might only be Gen 2 or Gen 3, but a 2.5-inch drive bay generally as well. So set up the 2.5 to boot the system, set up the NVMe for fast storage, and then you've got a product. I'm not sure how this would go over, but it's something I've been toying with. Installed Pop OS on my old Dell. How's that running for you? And are you using the Cosmic desktop in the alpha version, or are you using the previous like 2404 with the GNOME desktop customized for Pop OS? I'd be curious on that. Jacob, thank you for becoming a member. Welcome to the jungle. This is day 2 of early morning streaming for me. So I think you missed the demo, but we installed Casa OS. Well, I had Casa OS installed, but I went through Casa OS from the start page when you first connect to the web interface, and we installed a couple of applications and whatnot. So that kind of catches you up. There's always a replay. Running good, original desktop. All right. I've been so the laptops I'm using right now, I've got a pair of them because I wanted a backup, right? I've got 2 Lenovo ThinkPad T460s. One I've got, the newer of the two, or more recent acquisition of the two. Let's be real here. They're not new machines by any stretch. The most recent acquisition of the two is running Pop! OS with Cosmic Alpha 7. So far, it's been pretty stable. I wish they'd clean up some glitchy looking error messages when it first boots up, but I can deal with that. It's been very stable, other than that little bit of data that you wouldn't necessarily want an end user to see. But I've been pretty happy. Now I've been running Ubuntu on the other one. I recently tried to upgrade to 2504 and it's given me some issues. I will probably be retrying that install after this stream. But yeah, we'll see how that goes. So anyway, original desktop. Going to try Wine to run my emulator for my business so I can possibly dump Windows at work. Yeah, that would be a great case study if you are able to do that. Keep in mind that if it's a business application that you're wanting to emulate, you may consider looking at CodeWeaver's, was it crossover office, crossover crossover. Which this is a wrapper around Wine that you can get for Linux or Mac OS. It is $74. So the advantage of this is that it's packaged as a ready to go application, whereas sometimes Wine can be, let's say, problematic. So know that you've got options. If your standard Wine does not do it for you, I do believe they've got a free trial. So there's you're not going to hurt anything by trying it, right? So at that point, you can potentially be able to dump your Windows stack. But if you're using something for work, I would almost suggest going with CodeWeavers, just because you have an option to get support since it's a paid product. So they've got their Linux help. They've got a pretty extensive list of options here. I'm not sure they've got like human support, but it may be easier to find support for what you're specifically trying to do through CodeWeavers and through various other forums in various places, right? So just food for thought. I've used CodeWeavers in the past. I'm not currently using it, but I've long since standardized on cross-platform software. With a few exceptions, I am running this stream from a Mac just so I can have access to the audio video production hardware and software that I need to make um, running the channel a less painful process. Um, Despite all the advances, one place that is still for the type of content I produce, right? There's still not a one-to-one um, competitor on Linux to something like ScreenFlow on macOS or Camtasia, which runs on Windows and macOS. In both cases, the products give you a single piece of software that will let you record, edit, and access a bunch of other um, resources such as stock footage and um, you know, easy access to titling and effects and different things for videos. And I have accepted that the type of content I produce is more similar to corporate training video type content than it is to Hollywood. So I don't see DaVinci Resolve as being the best fit for my needs, right? And I've tried Shotcut, I've tried uh Caden Live, I've tried Open Cut or Open Shot or whatever the heck it is. I've tried Flowblade. And in each case, I would have to build up a stack of software to be able to replicate what I do in ScreenFlow currently, or going forward, I'm likely moving to Camtasia. Now, there's a personal reason that I want to give Camtasia a shot, and that's because their head office is like 20 minutes from my current location. A 20-minute drive from my current location, taking into consideration traffic. I've had early on in my endeavors into video stuff, I had a copy of Camtasia for Mac OS back in the Camtasia 2 days, the Camtasia Mac version 2. At the time, it was over my head. I did not understand some fundamentals about video editing, and there was just too much there. It was overwhelming. However, fast forward a few years, I've been through iMovie. I've been through ScreenFlow, which is what I've been using since 2021. And if Telestream, the company behind ScreenFlow, had bothered to do regular updates of their software, I would likely stick with ScreenFlow. I like it. I know the editing shortcuts. I know the layout very well, and I can make it do, say, 95% of what I want to do. Camtasia, unlike ScreenFlow, is licensed as a subscription for individual users. There is a business tier, but I'm not sure that gives me everything that I would get with the middle or top tier of the subscription version. I'm probably going to go with the middle tier to start off with. I hate I hate base tiers. I think they're worthless. But I've been watching a few videos on it lately, and some of the things that Camtasia can offer now, which did not exist when I last used it, which did not exist when I started using ScreenFlow, even. Some of the things it can do now blow ScreenFlow out of the water. So whether it's some of the editing things, some of the stock footage and sound effects and whatnot, it's got I don't see ScreenFlow being a way forward at this point unless Telestream really puts some development effort money into the product. Now, if they offer me an upgrade, a discounted upgrade to version 11 or version 2025 or whatever they're going to call the next version when it comes out, I will at least take a look at it. If they avoid the subscription model, and would I come back to ScreenFlow? Potentially. But I have to do what's best for the channel right now, and making that lateral move to Camtasia is the best way for me to get access to the things that I want to access to streamline my editing and push things forward and continue to ramp up, bringing out recorded content, bringing out, clips from my live streams, etc. So, anyways, rant over. I've been trying to teach myself DNS and SSL since I bought a few domains, but it hasn't been as fast and easy as I anticipated. Yeah. DNS can be a pain. So, all right. Story time. Back in my college days, when I went back to school to finish my degree for once and for all, I had this professor, and this wasn't his last name, but the running joke between my classmates and I is that he was like an albatross around everybody's neck. So this particular class was one of the like 400 level classes. It was like a senior level class. I took it the year before I graduated, so that I could take it with the group of people that I went through most of my classes with. And so the professor, who had a very high opinion of himself, decided that for the purposes of the class, we're going to give you Cisco hardware for your networking, and you're going to run Debian Linux. Now, mind you, this was a bunch of years ago. You're going to run Debian Linux, and instead of using the package manager to install things, we're going to add another level of complexity by telling you that you've got to install everything from source code. And it so happens that at the time I was the person in the group that had the most Linux experience. So I stayed a little bit hands off with the Cisco stuff. Even though I was involved, I was less involved but I did the bulk of the work on the Linux side of things, right? Researching, compiling, and recompiling and configuring the software that we needed to install to meet the goals of the class. So that's the backstory. Um, Now, none of us really had any experience with DNS at the time, right? Other than textbook experience memorizing stuff for classes. So here we are being thrown into not only getting familiar with Cisco command line configuration of a firewall and a separate router, right? Making those work together to get access to the internet. We also had the component of installing Linux, compiling the downloading the software, compiling it, installing it, making sure it ran, right? So there are several levels of complexity here. And so we had to install bind for DNS. And I'm not sure Unbound existed at the time. I'd have to check dates on that, but that would have been much simpler. So we had to use bind for DNS, which is a configuration nightmare for brand new users. And let's just say that more than 15 years ago when I was doing this, um, there wasn't the documentation out there that there is now, or the examples, or the YouTube videos. So this was very, scour the forums and try to piece together documentation. So we got it configured, and then the next level or layer of stuff we had to install and configure was Java and what was it? Uh, it's one of the network management um, systems. Open NMS, I think it was. Um, so anyway, um, this course was a traumatic experience. We'll just leave it at that. And the few of us that keep in contact these days, all sort of laugh and poke fun at that professor for you know um overstepping where the students in that particular curriculum were at skill wise, and instead of giving us building block exercises where we could actually learn something, it was just dump you in, and at the end of the 16-week semester you've got to have X, Y, and Z running and able to be demonstrated. So that was quite the experience. Now, when I was teaching, I was put in charge of running they called it an externship. Um and it was stupid naming. So I taught at a vocational college, right? Which I think vocational colleges have their place. This one just happened to be crap. Um, and I didn't know it until I was already working there, right? So this externship program was essentially what an internship is for a regular college or university. But we handled this in-house. Um, so they just went opposite on the terminology, and instead of shipping students out to employers to do like a work study type of um period, we facilitated it in-house. So based on my experience in that particular class at college, I came up with a similar but much simpler version of it. And so I had two groups of students, and so what they ended up having to do, and they did this on physical hardware, not in virtualization, because they weren't to the place where they could grok the virtualization quite yet. So what we did is we had the campus network, and each group had to install pfSense on a machine where they would get internet access from the campus network, and then they would have a second network card going to a switch and being able to, have other items on their private network. On that private network, they installed, I believe at the time it was an early version of Open Media Vault. It may have been FreeNAS at the time. And so the ultimate end goal, and granted, we didn't have as much time as a 16-week semester, but the end goal was, person A on network 1 could talk to person B on network 2, and hopefully, and I don't know though, I don't remember if they ever got it working, but I really wanted a VPN going between them so they could access the um, network attached storage on either private network. It was perhaps over their heads, given the inexperience of several of them before that particular class. But my intention with that particular exercise was not necessarily that they get everything working. Um, my my intention with it was several fold, really. One, they get experience with networking. They get experience installing things that are not Windows. I purposely picked things that once you did the initial install, they had a graphical interface. Uh, I think everything we used had a web interface. And so basically, they could build upon the lab exercises that they had done up to that point in the program, and they could see one example of a real world um, scenario. So a company with two locations that have network attached storage boxes at each location, but they might need to share files back and forth, and you want to do it securely, right? That was the long and the short of it. And the other piece was that the people in the individual groups had various levels of experience and backgrounds with technology. And so it was about learning together, group work, and simulating that type of team environment that you might have in the workplace, right? And all of them ended up walking away with different experiences. And my hope is that, because I'm not really in touch with any of these folks anymore, my hope was that they all got enough of an exposure to these things that they could take that and apply it when they got out somewhere else, right? So anyway, that's my story of the day. um Good morning, Alonzo. Welcome in. We are an hour and 33 minutes in. Um, at this point, I just kind of want to open things up for questions and, see what people think of these early morning streams, see what they think of Casa OS and Image and Tianji. Do you like my little stories that I have been trying to interject into the streams and things, or would you prefer me to stick to the topic and cut out the fluff? Um, part of wanting to make a push to um move over to Camtasia is, I believe, from playing with a demo and from watching several videos now, I believe that the streamlined editing capabilities, um and the fact that it will do translations, and the fact that it will do captioning, um I think it opens me up to more options of what I can do with future videos. And if it does have the effect of bleh, streamlining things, uh, there's a potential that I could push out more content more quickly, right? And I've got I've got ideas out the yin yang, but there comes a point where there just aren't enough hours in the day to research and record and edit and schedule and publish and read all the comments and do all the things, right? So I'm looking for that next level of streamlining and to ultimately save me some time. And yeah, I realize there's been a lot of focus on streaming lately and less focus on the long form videos. Um, I've even been putting out shorts, which I despise, but uh, it is what it is. So I'm trying to find an angle and refine my angle for shorts. And it's really two angles. One is repurposing content from midweek news using an AI tool I've got. So I'm hitting and checking a box that says shorts should be low effort, meaning I don't want to have to reinvent the wheel to put out a short. If I don't have to re-record something, I'm not going to. Second, um, it seems that my shorts on Windows related topics are the ones that are getting the most views. So I am likely going to increase the amount of Windows related content on the shorts side and concentrate long form and sort of split those streaming topics into more Unix and Linux and Mac OS related content. So I've got I've been working on this angle for a while, right? So, um, it is what it is. Um, everybody's got to have a gimmick, they say, right? That I don't like calling it a gimmick. I'll call it an angle. This is the way I see um the channel going for the next 3 to 6 months, right? So the fog video is going to commence this weekend. Um and then I will likely be doing some more open media vault stuff and potentially some more Proxmox stuff. All well, part of this is going to be within the greater context of avoiding the e-waste and reusing machines that originally came with Windows 10, right? um I'm really stuck on this idea right now. I want to get the word out. I want to do whatever my little part is, whatever my small role is in getting people to reuse these machines that still have some life in them, or recycle them responsibly. Don't just put them in the trash can. Don't just put them out by the side of the road. Recycle them responsibly, and um, if a machine can be reused, then reuse it. If you've determined that for your purposes it's reached the end of its lifespan, then pull and or destroy the storage. Um, if it's an NVMe drive, you may want to just pull it and reuse it. If it's a spinning hard drive, you may want to crush it um, after you've taken your data off it, of course. But I I see this planned obsolescence happening, and I believe what Microsoft is doing is just another in a series of examples of copying to some level what Apple has done, right? Apple got rid of floppy drives on Macs, and within a few years, your PC vendors were no longer including floppy drives on PCs. Um, Apple got rid of optical drives as standard on Macs, and now you'll be hard pressed to find a Windows desktop or laptop with an optical drive. You know, Apple has switched CPU architectures a couple of times now, from Motorola 68K to PowerPC, from PowerPC to Intel, from Intel to Apple Silicon. And while, back in the original Windows NT days from 30 years ago, they had multiple CPU architectures that Windows NT supported. They brought that back to just Intel and AMD. Now they're starting to expand that out again to ARM, anyways. Um, there's still no support for Windows on RISC-V, which I'm okay with. I would prefer to have at least one platform where there's no Windows. But that's just my take on things. So I see the push for TPM 2.0 module, and whatever the generation is that Microsoft requires for Windows 11, for Intel and AMD respectively. I view that as, Apple drawing a line in the sand. The Motorola chips are no longer supported. The PowerPC chips are no longer supported. We are getting to the end of even Intel chips being supported on Mac OS. And I expect in the next 2 years, Apple will stop building Mac OS to run on Intel hardware, their Intel Macs, which effectively kills the Hackintosh movement, shall we call it, running Mac OS on PC hardware or in a virtual machine on x64 hardware, right? But hey, if my choice were only between Windows and Mac OS, hands down, I would be on the Mac OS side. I may not be running the most current machines. I'm not running the most current machines right now. My M1 Mac Mini, this model came out in 2020. So in October, November, it'll be 5 years old. I've had it since 2021. It's one of those things. My brain works better when I'm working with a Unix-like file system and things built on that type of system. I hate drive letters. It seems like a set of training wheels on a bicycle, right? So I'm very happy with the compromise that I've ultimately made, and that's my Mac is mainly mainly for my video work. Now, do I end up doing a lot of other work in here? Yes. However, that's likely going to change to some extent. How exactly that's going to change, I'm not entirely sure, but I've got some plans percolating. But my push at this point is I'll keep a Mac around because I do have a few customers or a few clients that use Macs. I want to be able to continue to offer support for Mac OS and Mac hardware as much as possible to earn a little extra scratch on the side. I've long since standardized on cross-platform software. So even on my Macs, LibreOffice is always installed. Notes Nook, which is a cross-platform app for note taking, pretty much runs anywhere. You can use it as a browser-based software. You can use it as native application on Linux, Mac OS, Windows, and it has apps for mobile for iOS and Android as well. So I've systematically selected software that both fits my needs and ticks the box of being cross-platform. So I can move smoothly for everyday work that doesn't involve video editing. I can move smoothly between Linux and Mac OS and not really have any big problems. So, you know, Are there places like where I would like to see further refinements of this workflow system? Sure. But for the most part, it meets my needs. I have the equipment and the ability to self-host a lot of what I use. And then for, video editing purposes, I've got the Mac and, you know, currently ScreenFlow, likely moving to Camtasia 2025 here. I may even do it this weekend. I don't know. If I get the creative bug to do that, I may just say F it and take the discount they're currently offering. So that's where I'm at in a nutshell. And if I had no more Windows users to support, I would not even have Windows virtual machines around. I don't see that happening until after my father is dead and gone. And, I end up working somewhere else that I don't have to do end user support for Windows on a daily basis. Honestly, if I had a machine at the library that's beefier than what I'm currently having on my desk, I would probably have Linux installed as my main OS and have Windows as a VM. And there are days that kind of setup seems very attractive, right? But there would be a whole lot of work for me in a short amount of time if I decided to leave the job and I needed to reformat the computer and put Windows on it for the next sucker that takes its position. Don't get me wrong. I like my job. The thing that will likely make me leave ultimately is dollars in my pocket, right? I've not been very successful in getting ahead while working this job. So, yeah, it's going to be a strategic change when it happens, and that's just the way it's got to be. Oh, look at this. Look at this. I turned off Windows Update on wife's desktop, not going to retire it because of Microsoft. Yeah, just make sure you're keeping a hard eye on it for security, because that scares me. At least have regular backups somewhere, please. Desktop is good for writing emails and surfing the web. Still using Mac Mini 2014 and 2016. Yeah, my original Mac Mini was a 2012 model, which I ran it until 2021, and I couldn't take it past that. It was just, for what I was doing for the video work, it was just getting too slow. Big Sur and Monterey. Those were great versions of Mac OS. I kind of miss those. Good morning, Ken. Welcome in. We're almost to the 2-hour mark, which at 2 hours, I'm going to have to get up and move around because it's a lot of sitting. So, Jacob says Hackintoshes will have to move to QEMU emulation if they ditch x86 64 instructions. Glad I moved away from Mac and Windows for most of my day-to-day for just that reason. We have seen Windows on ARM. Yep. Still not great. I've actually run Windows on ARM on this Mac with UTM. I haven't updated that in a while, so since I've still got people here, let's fire up one of these and we'll Windows on ARM. I'm still just not wanting to use this for any real work. There we go. Looks just like any other Windows. As you can see, I don't have very much installed on this. For grins. Let's go over here. Now, it's my understanding that the Action 1 agent is not ARM native yet, but that has not stopped me from installing it and for testing purposes on these ARM VMs, right? So let's see. 225060. So don't mind the number of vulnerabilities. I've got some machines I need to delete, which will take care of the majority of that. So we'll go to lab and Windows ARM connected. 3 critical, 22 non-critical vulnerabilities. 1 missing update. Microsoft Edge. What a Charlie Foxtrot. So we'll deploy this next. Run it now. And then we'll see what happens. We'll see what happens. So it should go rather smoothly. Thing I'm curious about here though is, ooh, yuck. I am maxing the hell out of this little Mac Mini. Well, hey, you know, what's the worst that can happen? I can crash it and it can kill the stream. Well, would kill the stream. I'd have to reload StreamYard and keep going. But this should get us to the point where we can have that up to date or have at least all the vulnerabilities patched that we've got patches for. If you think Windows on ARM is bad, you can borrow my old Itanium server and really hate life trying to get anything to work. And I meant native ARM Windows, not Mac translated. This is native ARM Windows. This is not emulated x64. This is actually running on natively on the it's using QEMU, but it's not doing full virtualization. It's just passing through the ARM cores on the Mac to this instance. So anyway, yeah, really got the swap going well today. So all right, action completed. Let's look at lab again and see. Let me take this a minute. There we go. It says up to date now. There it goes. It's disappeared there. And this is still saying 2 critical, 18 not critical. So Firefox, which I don't think Action 1 can patch the ARM version of Firefox for whatever reason. So I'm guessing that if we launch Firefox and just kick off the update manually, then it should help the cause. So we'll let this update finish, see what the vulnerabilities look like, and then wrap the stream. Because I'm almost out of coffee. Restart to update. All right. I really hate picture-in-picture mode. Okay, so that should take care of some of the vulnerabilities. We are now on version 136.01. Restart. Come on. There's not a newer version of Firefox for Windows ARM. Yeah, 138.04. That's better. Yeah, sometimes it takes this a minute to update vulnerabilities and things, but it's a whole lot better than doing all this stuff manually. That could be the other issue. Let's approve the updates. All right. Let's go back to lab and see what else might be missing on this. It's saying nothing. Well, I'll let that run for half an hour and see what that does. Jacob, on the Itanium subject, I've never used it, never seen it in the wild. Don't really have much interest in it. At this point, I'd like to slowly leave X64. And use a combination of ARM and RISC-V. That's where I would like to end up before I retire. Is the hardware there yet? No. On ARM, it is closer than it is on RISC-V, but I have yet to see the high core count ARM chips get to a price point that a mere mortal can afford. If I'm not buying a Mac Pro or even a Mac Studio, then I'm not going to be able to justify the Ampere product that System 76 has out that has 128 cores. It'd be a great machine to have, don't get me wrong, but I'm hoping that once more ARM machines get out there, that they will start dropping in price to be a little more competitive with other things, right? And RISC-V, the developer boards look fun. I'd love to at least have like a board for the framework laptop, even in the little desktop case that they're selling the new one in, the $350 one with 8 cores. I'd like to have that just to play with. I can't justify the cost right now. But then, I think it's going to be 5 years, 3 to 5 years before there's any sort of mainstream type device with RISC-V. I could be wrong. I don't like making predictions, but my best guess is 3 to 5 years before we'll have socketed chips, and if we ever see socketed chips, and just more consumer oriented products based on it. So let's see. I just hope we get the fabled year of Linux before the year of ARM. I think the year of ARM has already come and gone. If you count all the Macs in the M series, if you count the iPads that are the M series, even the A series iPads, iPhones, and the majority of Android boxes and phones are all ARM. We've got Windows on ARM available in both laptop and sort of development box form. We've got the Ampere from System 76 for high-end engineering purposes, for automotive is what they're aiming it at. But I mean, development for Android would be another place. And the Raspberry Pi has certainly helped push that forward to some extent. But um, I think the year of ARM has come and gone already, in my opinion. But I guess it depends on what parameters we put on this. If it's ARM on the desktop, then no. um, but it's all right. The old RX 2660 collects dust very nicely. One of the most complete antiques on my shelf. Oh my. Suppose if you count mobile devices, that would be unfortunately true. Yeah. Yeah. Well, and I mean modern Macs are effectively running quote unquote mobile chips. If you get down to it. I'd be curious to see overall data center statistics, ARM versus traditional globally. Yeah, I would be as well. I know there. I've seen some chatter about ARM making inroads, especially when you consider that both Facebook and Amazon have custom ARM silicon that they're using in their data centers, and perhaps others. I wouldn't be surprised if Apple has custom ARM silicon that they're using in their data centers. But you know, I don't know that for a fact. uh, Snapdragon is definitely in the data centers now. Yeah, yeah. Well, and that's where Ampere has been pushed is data center. You know, System 76 just happens to be turning it into a workstation as well. But that Ampere chip was initially focused for the data center purposes. All right, we have gone 10 minutes past where I was originally going to quit. So um, I'd love to continue the conversation, but I need to get up and move. I'm not getting anything done in the apartment by sitting here yakking, and my voice is getting tired. So thank you all for being here. Um, I appreciate the continued support, members or not. Even if you're just a subscriber, even if you're just a casual viewer, please subscribe. At least doesn't cost you anything. Um, it's been an interesting month. I'm ready for May to be over. But I am going to be trying to push out a few more videos between now and the end of May. I'll probably be live streaming more to make up for the 6 days I was effectively cut off. And maybe there's a small chance that I can salvage what's left of the month and get some content out that will get some views, right? So uh, we'll see what happens. I'm going to make the push. Yes, there will be more shorts. Yes, there will be some long form videos coming out, and then I don't know how many days in a row I'm going to live stream, but today's 2 days in a row for the early morning stream, so not quite as early as yesterday, but it's all good. So on that note, everybody enjoy your holiday weekend if you're here in the States, and if you're not, then enjoy your short weekend. If I'm not back again today on a live stream, I will likely be tomorrow night. And we might do something on Monday. I'm not sure. I've got to figure out if there's a parade coming through town because I'm not far removed from the downtown Main Street. And Obviously, I can't do a live stream while there's sirens and a marching band playing and all that nonsense. So tomorrow night is 95% likely. Monday is up in the air. So until next time, thanks for watching and have a good one.